Mogwai have been creating astonishing post-rock, post-punk soundscapes and soundtracks for decades now. I caught up with Stuart Braithwaite. We talked music, stone circles, and everything else in the universe.
Is that your little music den there?
Yeah. It's on my record. I sorted out all my records and the where's the other side? Oh yeah, there's the other ones. Yeah, I hadn't put a record away. I've been living in this flat for 5 years, and I hadn't put any away that I'd listened to or bought. So I had as many out of the shelves as were in the shelves. So yeah, that took me a week. That killed a week of time.
It looks like we're in the same room.
It does. Men of good taste, John.
It's like your shelf just carries on into my shelf.
Yeah.
Is this what you've been doing for the last few months? Just putting things into alphabetical order?
I've done a bit of that. We've been working on music actually, because we were meant to have done a new album in America with Dave Fredman. But obviously, no one could go anywhere, and that kind of got scuppered. So we've kind of got a plan B, and we've just kept working on the songs. So we've actually been kind of doing quite a lot of music. Done quite a lot of remixes for people as well, and started writing some songs for the next Minor Victories album as well. So yeah, and Elizabeth, my wife, her album came out a month ago, so I was helping her with that release. And yeah, I've been pretty busy. Probably done more than I would have normally done.
I think there's musicians have been writing lots and lots of songs, but they haven't got anyone to play them to. It's a really strange dichotomy.
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue, but try not to think about that too much. Sure.
So have you changed the way you write then? Are you sending files to each other, or were you already working in that kind of way?
We always did a lot of that because Barry's in Berlin. We usually kind of maybe have this is a guess, but 3 weeks sending files, and then we'll get together. Well, maybe not all of us, but most of us apart from Barry will get together and play everything. So we've not really done that at all. But I think we're going to try and do a bit of that this week, because Martin started going in, because he's not got a full drum kit in his house, so he's started going into the rehearsal room just playing away. So might go and do some stuff for Martin this week.
Yeah, I think there's sort of a vague possibility you can sort of be in a room with other people and make music, isn't there? Although God knows how.
Well, I don't think you're officially meant to, but we've got our own place, so no one's going to stop us. Yeah. And we'd be pretty careful, because Martin's got some health issues as well, so we'd definitely be kind of keeping a good distance and all that kind of stuff.
So have you found it's affected the music you're making this kind of period? Has it made it more introspective, or has it gone the other way around? Is it more escapist?
I don't know, John. I don't really know. I don't think it's changed. I mean, I can already had a pretty strong idea of what the songs I wanted to write for this record were going to be like, and I don't think it's changed. I wrote a few ones that are a wee bit mopey. Maybe we wouldn't have done. But it's always hard to tell, isn't it? It's like, you know what it's like when you put a record out and people go, oh, what influenced you making this album? And you're like, well, everything, really. And you're too busy just trying to get 5 minutes of music that's not boring and all the notes sound right next to each other to have any kind of overlapping thoughts of what created you to think of those notes. You're too busy trying to make them sound okay.
It's like a subconscious thing. It just sneaks in anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll often end up. I mean, it's kind of funny doing this chat because it's a while before we're even going to get to record it, but quite often it'll be when you start speaking about the album with journalists and friends and stuff that you kind of get a picture of what it actually is, because when you're in the thick of it, it's it's just what you're doing. It's not. It's almost like, I don't know. Maybe some people work in a more kind of conceptual way, or kind of think of themes before they're making things. With us, and definitely with me, it tends to be just, right, let's do something, and then not actually realise what it is you've done until quite a bit later on.
I mean, that's one of the things that always really interests me about what you do with your music. I mean, ostensibly, in a lot of ways, you're like a punk rock band, but the music you play is almost the complete opposite of what people expect a band like that to play. You know, it is very introspective and it draws you in.
Yeah,
very atmospheric, and textural. But the band and the way and the approach of it is almost like a hardcore or punk rock kind of band.
I mean, I in my head, that's what kind of band we are, and logically, no, we're not. But yeah, in my head, we're like Wire or Black Flag or something like that. Like and I guess maybe that's how that music makes me feel, and how I imagine they felt and feel making that music is just kind of how I think about music. But yeah, maybe we're just too lazy to play fast, John.
it definitely reaches the same levels of intensity. It just takes a different route to get there.
Yeah. I think you're right. Well, I don't know if it quite gets that, but it's definitely that kind of emotion and that energy. Yeah.
Do you think one of the things is because you don't have often? Well, most songs don't have vocals on them.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make the music kind of move in a different direction?
I think it opens up. It opens up possibilities. I know when we do songs with singing, I know this doesn't apply to everyone. You've obviously got some people that can use the vocals in a really unorthodox way, like Joanna Newsom or Bowie or Kate Bush or something like that. But I mean, when we do vocals, it tends to make the songs have a more regimented structure. And yeah, without that, you can kind of do what you want. But then there's always the kind of danger that you go a bit nuts and it ends up being kind of prog madness, which yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've even got the technical ability to pull off.
Well, that's another thing that's really interesting, because you do create the sounds you make with all the pedals. The sounds complex, but the songs are simple, aren't they? Often repeated 2-chord motifs, little piano parts.
Yeah,
for 7 minutes, really effective. So is it a deliberate simplicity to build the spine, or?
I don't think it's deliberate. I think it probably. I mean, when we started the band, we were kids, and none of us were virtuosos or anything. So I think it was maybe just kind of accidentally falling into something that we did that worked well, which is quite simple. I think over the years it's become less simple without becoming pointlessly complex. But yeah, I think it genuinely, and I love a simple music. I love of like Spaceman 3, and even the Velvet Underground music's quite often structurally simple. They're quite often something really interesting going on. I think a lot of that was John Cale's influence in the early years. But yeah, I mean, there is music. I mean, I'm really obsessed with Jimi Hendrix, and I remember, like, I think when I was younger, getting like a book of like how to play songs, and I could maybe play the notes, but actually the how complicated a lot of the music would kind of fucking just hurt my head. Yeah, I think I had grown up on too much punk rock. It hardwired me into like 3 chords max.
Do you find that if you're just playing like one chord or one note in a guitar for a couple of minutes, it just kind of draws you in, and you can hear a million different variations of just one note?
Yeah, and you start to notice other things in the music. I mean, music can be really hypnotic, and it's funny as well. It's like the world now, we're kind of social media and 24-hour news and everything. You're just bombarded with not actual noise, but just fucking information and opinions and all that stuff. And I think that's one of the things I've probably listened to music more in the lockdown than I have in years, and I think it's because it seems a proper escape, you know, of like, from, especially when the news is so grim, you know, just kind of like, kind of just get a bit of refuge, you know. And I realize I'm extremely privileged to be able to do that, because a lot of the things with like illness and with racism are things that some people can't take an escape from. But yeah, for me personally, I've definitely I've taken a lot of solace in music.
Almost like a meditation.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of the music I've kind of been drawn towards is pretty empty. It's pretty not busy music.
Like what things you've been listening to? Like a lot of electronic music, or
yes, I really love like that guy Lost Skill, Stars of the Lid, like old Eno records. Yeah, just quite a lot of quite peaceful music.
Yeah, do you think these, like you're just saying there, these times, nobody listens to anything, do they? Don't listen to each other. People don't really listen to music. It's just listen to like the first 5 seconds of a song and then move on to the next one. I mean, in a way, what you're doing Mogwai is the opposite, isn't it? When you go see Mogwai live, it's what, 90 minutes? It's you have to really be drawn in. You can't sit there looking at your phone when you're playing. You get pulled in.
Yeah, you hope so. And I think I kind of think that it's kind of one of the things that makes me kind of so sad about live music, because it's one of these things. And cinema as well. I guess the cinemas are going to open up again soon, but it's just and it's like an hour and a half that could change your life. You know, that kind of could. And I'm definitely not necessarily talking about us here. I'm just talking about generally, like going to see someone and just seeing a performance, or even going to watch a movie in the dark, that getting these ideas and someone's vision and someone's view of the world that can really have a huge effect on you. And I mean, it kind of, I wonder if people are kind of maybe going to take a different view on that kind of culture, or on culture completely. Because I mean, I don't know what I could have done without books and music and film and TV, all this stuff. You know, it kind of like it's so essential for people, even people that never heard of my band or be in that kind of world. I'm sure like something cultural will have helped them get through this. And yeah, I know there's a big conversation with music about people not getting paid properly for streams and all that, and I'd like to think that'll kind of get a bit of traction, you know, because you've got to wonder about the next generation of musicians and whether they're going to be able to do it full time to the extent that they can keep making music.
So when you say there's a change in attitude to creativity, do you mean like that, a positive appreciation of it, appreciation of the people trying to make this stuff?
I hope so. Like I get that impression. I certainly know, like when it became pretty obvious that the gigs were stopping for a while, I know there was a big response when like Bandcamp did their no fee days, and people spending a lot of money on music, which is good. And I think just today in Scotland, probably already in England, but the record shops are opening, and be good if people like if there was maybe a band they were planning to go and see, the gigs had to be pulled if they went and go and buy an album or something like that. You know, I think these things make a bit of difference.
I mean, that's another thing I find very interesting about you is the band is very you're political and you're very socially aware. And again, it's the same thing, but the music's instrumental. So in a way, the music says a lot by not saying anything directly, but it does say something, doesn't it?
I mean, it's a weird one. I mean, I kind of sounds a bit pretentious, but I think if you choose to spend your time trying to make the world sound a bit better, that's a political statement in itself. But I think if we tried to write very I don't know the word, like lyrical songs about political issues, I don't know if we have the skills to do justice, you know, without it being a bit clumsy or. But we're political people, and which we've through a lot of these through Bandcamp, we've raised some money for like help musicians and the Black Lives Matter movement and NHS charities, and that was a good thing to be able to do. Kind of, you know, there's a lot of important things going on in the world, and if you can do a little bit to get behind them, that's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I often think probably the best politics in music are people just doing things. You know, political lyrics are very hard to make engaging. I think people just talking and creating a space where things happen is probably the most powerful thing a musician can do.
Yeah, and even helping raise money is great, but money's not everything. But I think by just showing support, you're bringing a conversation into a different sphere. And some people, I mean, I'm sure we both know people that just think about music and don't think about anything else, you know? Like I've got a mate, a really great musician friend who I go skateboarding with, and I went skateboarding with him about 2 days before the pandemic and like before the shutdown, and he went to hug me. I was like, I'm going to give his name away. I was like, Stevie, you can't do that. Like this thing, and he was like, oh, I think I saw something about that. and he like at that point just it wasn't that aware of it because he's so involved in music and just he'd been working so hard. It kind of shows me up. I've been listening to like 20 podcasts about it already, and like it's like stocking up on hand gel. But like, yeah, it's so. And I'm definitely not accusing my friend of this, but like when you do something that involves a cause like anti-racism or kind of something against violence against women, you're people who are reading about it maybe because they know about the band or they're just reading about something cultural be thinking, oh, wait a second, maybe make them look into those subjects and kind of realize that these are things that as society we need to be looking at and trying to do something about.
I mean, obviously, look at the news is a very depressing experience these days.
Yeah,
maybe a small bit of optimism. You've always been quite vociferous about independent Scotland, and do you think in the last few months, one of the few little sparks of optimism has been the way Nicola Sturgeon's handled the virus, and also, in a sense, cutting the ties very subtly with England or London or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that she's done well and kind of been a very steady kind of hand up here. In a lot of weird ways, though, like one thing that's always bothered me is that we get the London news. Not that we shouldn't get it at all, but is the only news. So there's all these issues that are completely different, like education and legal things, and we're getting news that doesn't apply to us. It's in many cases it's like people in Canada getting the American news. They're kind of, because there's things that are completely different, and I think that this has shown why that's an issue, because there was a lot of things where Scotland moved at a different pace, and people here were getting the wrong information, so it kind of got really confusing. But yeah, Nicola Sturgeon has done a good job. But I mean, just a comparison, and just Boris Johnson and his kind of gang of weirdos have just been so even worse than I would have thought. I mean, I don't think highly of those people, but I think they've really been pretty dreadful. And yeah, and there's so many comparisons, isn't there, with other kind of authoritarian type figures. I mean, Trump's just a complete car crash over this, and Brazil's the worst place in the world right now, isn't it? Like all these kind of, I don't know, macho meathead kind of dudes predictably making an arse of it, and the countries that have done the best are run by women, Iceland and New Zealand. Kind of, yeah, it's a bit of a lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this the other week, and it is a very broad brushstroke, but maybe,
yeah.
And it's hard to be optimistic when the world's still run by idiots, but
Yeah.
it does seem like these little green sort of sprouts of something where maybe there's a new kind of politics, an empathy politics, which at the moment's been led by women, and maybe the middle-aged men could learn something from this. And do you feel optimistic when you sort of see these people like Jacinda Ardern or?
Yeah. I mean, I do, and I think something. I was talking to actually a friend, photographer friend, about this, about how over the last 3 months, it's like Trump has diminished. It's like even when he's ranting away, it kind of just seems like something from the olden days, you know. It kind of, it's like that. And maybe it's because his bluster can't compete with the virus. The virus doesn't care, you know. So it's kind of like it's the ultimate bullshit-ometer. It's kind of it is almost instantly made him obsolete, you know. And I really hope that continues through to him getting to losing the election. But yeah, I kind of wonder what would happen if the UK election happened again. You know, I definitely don't think that. I don't get the impression. I mean, obviously, people were sympathetic when he got sick, but I don't think that people seem. It's hard to tell from up here actually, but it seem as quite as pro Boris as they were. I know his approval went down a lot during that Dominic Cummings debacle, but yeah, it's going to be interesting times ahead, definitely.
What is your vision for an independent Scotland? I mean, people here often say it's sort of facade arguments, but it's too small. It can't possibly stand on its own. I have to point out to them that there's about 15 countries in Europe already smaller, like Estonia, that do very well. I mean,
yeah. I mean, my main thing is I'm very anti-nuclear weapon, so I'd like all of that to go. I mean, ideally for the UK to completely disarm, but even an independent Scotland to be a non-nuclear, like non-militaristic place where people try and care for each other a bit more, you know, like they kind of. I mean, I just think what the Tories have done to the welfare states it's just evil, you know, just trying to like really just kick people when they're down. And that doesn't have to be the case. I mean, this is the other thing that's shown. Like, remember Theresa May going on about the magic money tree? Well, they bloody found the magic money tree, didn't they?
Because everyone knew they wanted when they needed it, and then they put in
someone
really
found it.
socialist principles.
Yeah, it must have been behind a big bush. But yeah, just try and like just use the wealth that we've got, because I mean, Scotland's a rich country. Like, the UK is really wealthy. Is the fact there's people sleeping on the streets is criminal, you know? And you've got the Queen with her 20 mansions. Like, I mean, this thing that the media is so powerful that like so many things are just never questioned, you know? Like there's so there's one of the really good things is that people seem to be questioning things now. People are really questioning Scotland's role in slavery. You know, there's a lot of campaigns for reparations, to kind of take down a lot of these monuments to these pretty dreadful old men. And I like that. I like that. I mean, I'm not one of these people that thinks like Scotland's this bastion of purity, and I mean, Scotland's got a dark history as well, and it's good to face that, do something about it, and kind of make sure that going forward we're the kind of place where we welcome people and try our best to kind of to right the wrongs of the past.
Yeah, Scotland was the engine room of the empire, wasn't it? I mean, Glasgow was the biggest city at the time. It's implicated, but I mean, that's history. It's just about how you deal with the history, isn't it? It's
exactly.
Nobody's alive now has to be guilty about the past, but they have to know about the past, don't they?
Yeah. I don't think they have to feel guilty about it, but I mean, the one thing that kind of came to pass, or I found out that I didn't know, is that the UK only recently stopped paying the slave owners reparations for losing their business. And I mean, and that includes, I know David Cameron's family was one of the families, but there must be loads of these families, and they must be, I mean, they have to do something about it. I mean, surely they should, I don't know, a percentage of that money. I think they should give it back. I mean, it's so wrong. It's so wrong, and especially when you look at the kind of like inequality for Black people in this country, and I'm sure like a lot of those communities could do with some of that money to kind of do good with, you know. So I think there should definitely be a campaign for that.
Well, the other fact is that most of the stately homes in the United Kingdom were built by slave families on the wealth of the slave trade. So it's,
I bet,
the magic money tree was probably planted by the slave trade. I mean, it's the reason we're so
exactly
wealthy. It all came from that, didn't it?
Yeah. Elizabeth actually has a really good point that almost all of these problems, capitalism is the root. You know, like slavery was the ultimate in capitalism. It was just using humans as cogs in a factory or whatever, and with that kind of mindset of like making money over anything else, without that changing, it'd be hard to see everything change, you know.
The people who questioned it were looked on as being completely insane, like being a vegan 10 years ago.
Yeah.
like you were being ungodly and bizarre or eccentric and irritating. And now it's impossible. You would not have slaves now in this country anyway.
I mean, you talking about veganism as well. That's something that I was surprised wasn't mentioned more at the start of the virus. Like the fact that it came from these kind of illegal meat markets, and from the environmental issues of like encroaching on like nature. It just seems so obvious to me, like that you could instantly make the world a better place by like banning people eating beef.
And it's happening with the younger generation, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you just look at the news and you think it's a tidal wave of the idiocracy of like the Trumps and the Bolsonaros, and then you go back online and the 15 to 25-year-olds, they seem to be in different places, a different generation there, isn't there?
Yeah, you're right. The kind of people can be a bit sniffy about younger generations, but I definitely think that they're a lot better informed and they're a lot smarter than that always happens, doesn't it? Kind of people are loath to admit it, but every generation's smarter than the other ones. Like if you kind of like if you look at like any old news or any old like man in the street type documentary stuff from years ago, you can't believe how thick people are, you know? And I think generally, not that we've stopped having thick people, but I think that people get smarter and better informed. But also I think the people at the top become darker, you know? The people at the very top become even more capable of doing dreadful things.
What is it about people? I mean, obviously you're a lot younger than me. What are you now, 45 or something, or
44?
44, yeah. So what is it about people from your age upwards, men? What happens to them? It's stuff that's always puzzled me. All the people I grew up in punk have ended up being completely opposite side of the equation than where Joe Strummer was at. You know,
I don't know. It's a weird one. Thankfully, I don't think it's happened to any of my friends yet. But I mean, I'm sure it will, because that kind of, as you say, it seems to be this weird Morrisification of like white middle aged.
Example, what happened to him? I mean, not because of what he says, but how he says it. He used to be such a sensitive, thoughtful person, and then now he sounds really stupid. He's like his brain's fizzled out.
It seems to me. I blame the internet a lot for this, because I think that. I mean, I don't know Morrissey, but I would bet any money that he's got like some old mate from school that like got him into all this crap on Facebook. That's what it seems like. It's kind of like got a kind of embarrassing uncle vibe about it. You know, like someone's told him that, like, I don't know, refugees get 5-bedroom houses, and he's taken the ball and ran with it. You know, that's kind of what it seems like. And I think that's one thing that's kind of dreadful about the internet, is that people can find other people that think the same shitty things as them.
It's polarized everything, isn't it?
It's polarized everything, but it's also like back 20 years ago, your local pub would always have one guy that like talked absolute crap and thought whatever, believed David Icke. Do you know what I mean? And now you've got all those people all talking to each other, so they kind of feel
empowered.
Empowered, and you get to the point where like, is there not like something? I wouldn't have the right percentage here, but like a respectable amount of people think that the Earth's flat.
It's the fastest growing pattern of thought in the world, isn't it?
I mean, that's the virus, right? That's the other virus.
Yeah,
like, just sheer fucking idiocy.
Where does the musician fit into all of this? Is it a world to go and get lost in to escape from all this mad shouting, or is there a fluidity of thought that a musician can present to people that you don't have to be so black or white?
I'd like to think so. I mean, I'd like, because as you said, the polarity is one of the issues. Even people that I pretty much agree with everything, sometimes just the way that they present their views just makes me really dismayed. You know, it's like it is kind of like supporting a football team or something like that. That's kind of like you're either with us or you're against us, and it doesn't help change anyone's mind, which has surely got to be the whole point. But yeah, I think with music, I'd like to think it kind of helps open-mindedness in a way. Just doing something that exists only to exist. You know?
Do you think in some ways, a little extension on this, but Glasgow's like world-renowned music scene. It's not because it sells out stadiums, but because it pushes ideas. It's intelligent.
Yeah.
It's cross-cultural, cross-class. It's got a revolutionary aspect to it without throwing bottles. Do you think that's quite a key driving force in Scotland's reinvention of itself? You know, or the drift towards independence, independent thinking bands, independent thinking musicians.
Yeah, I do. I definitely felt that the way the vast majority of the cultural side of Scotland kind of rallied behind independence helped people to realise it wasn't a crackpot idea. You know, I think that maybe because a lot of musicians, and especially up here, and down your neck of the woods as well, but just generally are not that different from everyone else, you know. Whereas politicians have a certain way of talking, and they have a certain, I don't know, kind of grandiosity about them. That turns a lot of people off. A lot of people don't. They immediately think they're being sold a load of crap just because of the type of person telling them it. So I definitely think that and also takes a bit of imagination. If you've grown up, things have always been a certain way. You need to be able to imagine them being a different way. Otherwise, it does something to your brain. You can't quite get your head around it. And a lot of people don't like change. And I definitely think that the arts had a big help in kind of making it. I mean, if the polls are to believe, now the most popular option of people up here.
Do you think in some ways it reinvented a notion of Scottishness away from the cliched English idea of tartan clans and you know, the imposed Scottishness from the Victorian kings, you know, Queen Victoria? This is a new 21st century Scotland, and is and that soundtrack is part of it, and it's a different kind of Scottishness, isn't it?
I think so. There's a thing, I don't know if you've heard about it, called the Scottish cringe, and it's kind of a thing mainly from the 80s and 90s, where people just couldn't face up to anything Scottish. It kind of made them embarrassed, and I think that's definitely changed. And like even people singing in their own accents, which was the first. I mean, I guess the Proclaimers was the first band I knew about it, but it's now just totally normal. You know, even like Lewis Capaldi, like multi-million-pound pop star, sings in his own voice, and that definitely wouldn't have been when I was a teenager. That wouldn't have been. No one would have done it. You know, even the Proclaimers, people thought it was hilarious. It's like kind of like people kind of laughed at them. And I mean, you kind of think about that, like laughing at someone just for singing kind of how they speak. It's crazy, and it would seem crazy now if you said that to like a 16-year-old kid, like, oh, people, you know, that big song from Shrek, people used to think that was hilarious because the guy sang in his own voice. You know, like like just makes no sense at all. You know. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there has been a huge change in how people see themselves.
In what way? What is a 21st century Scottishness? Is there a discernible difference? You know, apart from singing an accent and not cringing about it, are there different traits of Scottishness that people embrace now?
I'm sure there are. It's kind of hard to quantify. I mean, I always think people are pretty down earth. It's something we share with the north of England as well. People are quite down earth and quite grounded, but also quite international. You know, I think that's maybe one of the reasons that like Brexit never really kind of caught on up here, because people quite like the idea of being part of the world, not kind of closing ourselves off from it. And I get that was one of the harder conversations, and maybe one that wasn't successfully put across during the independence referendum, where a lot of people kind of thought it was a narrow nationalism of kind of like closing the borders and just keeping all the shortbread to ourselves or whatever, you know what I mean? But kind of the way I saw it and the way I think a lot of people saw it was, you know, we want to be more, want to have our representatives alongside all the other countries' representatives and kind of do a better job of selling ourselves to the rest of the world and kind of joining the rest of the world. So I'd like to think there's an internationalism to it.
Is that coming from a confidence, maybe a cultural confidence, not a cultural cringe now?
Yeah. I think it's completely changed. I do.
I often think in England we don't have the confidence to go out on the world stage. We're actually we shout a lot, but we're actually quite scared.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me that England's having some kind of identity crisis right now. You know, like, which seems weird. England's a great place. There's loads of great culture and history, and yeah, there's some bad stuff, but there's bad stuff from everywhere. You know, I just kind of, I don't know, a very narrow idea of Englishness has kind of been allowed to be the loudest voice, you know, and maybe the process that Scotland's been through is something England needs to go through too, you know, needs to kind of lose a bit of the throwing plastic chairs around and kind of celebrate a bit more Joy Division and Shakespeare, you know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, the being patriotic in English is a very difficult equation, but there's so many things to be proud of.
Of course, yeah, of course.
So, so this year you put out the soundtrack album 000, and it's a great record. It's even more ambient and sparse, and a soundtrack as well. I mean, do you like writing? Is it a preferred way of writing, or just a different discipline when you write a film soundtrack?
It's just different. It's definitely more like work, because you've got to be you're part of a big machine. You've got to keep the director happy and all that kind of thing. But it's enjoyable, yeah. And I'm actually surprised. The show's meant to be on in the UK in March. I don't know if they're kind of spreading things out because they've stopped making TV shows. But yeah, the show itself, which no one here's seen yet, but it's really good. So it was a good project, and we actually hadn't fully decided to release it. It was kind of when this all stopped, we realised our album was going to be a bit late. We're like, no, I think putting some music out may be a good thing. Like, I know a few people put out surprise records, like the 9 Inch Nails put out 2 instrumental albums, which are absolutely amazing, really, really good. So it kind of like seemed a good thing to kind of, you know, help people sit in their house.
Yeah, give them something to listen to it.
yeah.
When you write a soundtrack album, is it? I mean, in the old days, people would stand in front of be in a cinema, wouldn't they, and watch on the screen? But I guess nowadays, would you put the film on a laptop, or do you just write the music you watch the film and think of the pieces of music? Is there different ways of doing it?
It kind of depends. With some of them, when we did that French TV show Le Revenant, we actually wrote a lot of the music before they'd even filmed it, just from the story and from images. With this one, Barry wrote a lot of the music, and I think he was sending them a lot of demos. But then there was 3 different directors, so they worked for different episodes, and they worked in different ways. So with quite a few of them, they were using some of our old songs. One or two ended up still staying in the show, but they would be like, "We want something like that," so we kind of having to like try and rewrite some song we'd written 15 years ago. So it was kind of an interesting process, but it's a really dark show. There's a lot of violence in it, so kind of like it was definitely a bit of a challenge to kind of like have this kind of menacing energy that maybe isn't something that we would normally be having in our songs.
So when you go back to, as you are now, writing a new Mogwai album, do you wipe the slate clean, or do you get some hangovers from doing the soundtrack records?
I think there's maybe some sounds that stay, because you'll kind of like fall in love with certain sounds. So I definitely can hear that in some of these songs, but there's definitely more of a fullness. Like, as you said, that album's it's quite desolate and there's quite a lot of space in it. Whereas from the songs, the way they're sounding now, they seem more complete in a way. No, the other ones are purposefully incomplete, but they make more sense with the visuals. Whereas if you're doing our own album, we'd like to be that they work completely on their own.
I mean, when you write a piece of music, is it more important to create a texture and an atmosphere, or a melody, or both?
I think the melody is the most important thing. I think for it to, it's a personal view, but I like to be able to play it on any instrument and it still sound like a piece of music. So it's good fun kind of getting some weird sounds or different sounds, but I think that the melody is probably the most important thing.
What's it like with your sister? When you grew up with your sister, she was like a massive fan, we talked about this before, of The Cure and Bauhaus. What's it like when you see Robert Smith quoting you now as an influence, going back the other way?
It's pretty mind-blowing. Yeah, it's not something I would have imagined ever happening, but it's good. It's really good. It's a really good thing for your confidence, like having a lot of musicians that I grew up really looking up to, kind of being nice about our music. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it means a lot. It's really good. And like Robert's also, he's been really supportive of the Twilight Sad, who are on our label as well. Took them on tour and kind of really properly looked after them. He's done some really nice things for them. So yeah, tell you what, when you think about some of these people of maybe your generation, John, who've turned into absolute nightmares, kind of think of some of the good guys, and Robert's definitely one of the good guys, you know. Julian Cope as well. He's a dude. You know, it's kind of, yeah, they've not got the memo to.
Yeah. Like Uncle Morrissey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just rewatching the Cure set at Glastonbury. I'm just thinking when I was there watching it last year, it was definitely one of the best 10 gigs I've ever been to. I was thinking,
yeah,
who would ever thought a band that sounded like that, and for all those years they were quite big, but at a certain level could end up being the event at the world's biggest festival.
Yeah, I wasn't there last year, but we watched it live on TV, and it just blew my mind. And last summer we did a lot of festivals with them, so I saw them probably 10 times or something. And yeah, they're some of the best gigs. The band just now was amazing. Reeves that plays guitar is like, I could just watch him. He's unbelievable. He's so good. I'm not usually someone who's technically very, very good at guitar. Doesn't usually do a lot for me. Quite a lot of those kind of guys are not doing much with their talent, but he's got a way of playing that's like really technical, but also really imaginative and really, really complimentary to the music. Yeah, so good. Really great guitar player.
I mean, he could he could easily play a 10-minute guitar solo, but he plays it for about 10 seconds.
yeah, so good. And I thought that was. I'd actually been reading about other Cure shows at Glastonbury. I know they had a terrible time when like there was a crush and a helicopter had to land, and so it was so good for them to kind of come back and just do this blinding set. Also with like no guests or anything like that. It seems to have been one of these kind of things that's happened in recent years where like, I don't know, like someone random jumps on with every band and does a pointless cover version. It's a bit weird.
With the Cure, and it's like what you do, and you go to their world, you're drawn into their world. It's their vision, their idea, and that's it. And it's an amazingly executed version of it. Brilliant light show, brilliant sounds, but there's no concessions to show business. You're in that place, and that's it.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good seeing how they've become so embraced. Because as you said, they've kind of went through phases where people haven't been as thought of as warmly as they should have. And I kind of almost wonder if that's like a bit of a kind of hangover of the sort of the old days of the music press where they could decide something was really uncool, you know? And that whole concept's kind of gone now, you know? I think the internet's helped that a lot, where people can just hear whatever they want and decide for themselves if they like it, you know? And like a lot of these, even stuff that I kind of grew up thinking was really not cool, but then you'll hear the odd song and be like, no, it's good. There's something good about almost everything, you know? There's there's a few bands I just can't stand, but almost every band has at least one pretty great song, you know? And I think there's the younger generation have grown up without the concept of something being like so uncool that they can't listen to it, you know?
Yeah, a bit like what you said about football before, that people define themselves by what they hated more than what they actually liked.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was a problem for the punk generation. It was great for about 6 months, but after that, it's not a great way to live your life.
Yeah.
Pretending not to like things it's like a 5-year-old.
Yeah. But yeah, there's the just mind-blowing like footage of people in an American baseball stadium burning disco records. And it's just wild.
Yeah.
Waste of energy. What are you going to do tonight? I'm going to go and burn some disco records. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's even more stupid. I'm going to go to the shop and buy them, and then I'm going to burn them.